Welcome back to another episode on the J.A.T side. I'm your host, Jalen Austin Taylor, and today is Wednesday, July 23rd, 2025, and I'm glad to be back with you guys for another episode. And I know it's been a while since I've made an episode on the J.A.T side, but I'm back today, and I'm very excited to be able to give you guys some new content. And before we get into today's main topic, I do have a quick announcement about the series that I started up at the end of May, the Navigating the Rift Stories from the Frontline series. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to find any other federal employees to interview to bring on the podcast, but I'm still glad I was able to get that one episode. Um, so instead of it being a series, it was really just a singular episode. Although I did envision it to be a series in the beginning, wasn't actually able to make that happen due to the lack of guests that I was able to show interest to be able to interview them. So that's really the only update I have before we get straight into today's topic. But I'm so glad to be back, and I'm glad to have the opportunity to give you guys, like I said, this new content today. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump straight into it. And if you read the title, you know this episode is going to be about the Atlanta Hawks. And unless you've been living under a rock, you know the Hawks have been very busy this offseason, and they're widely recognized as one of the best or biggest winners of the 2025 NBA offseason. The Hawks have been making a lot of very, very smart moves that are going to help them win not only this season, but also win in the years to come. The Atlanta Hawks have done a great job of kind of maneuvering their assets and using their assets to allow them to kind of, I guess, finesse other teams. If you want to have put a word to it, they've really been finessing a lot of teams, and they've done a great job of, like I said, using their draft picks, using the current players that they have on their roster to bring in more players, better players. They're going to give them, a better team to make a deep playoff run, which they have not made since the 2021 season, where they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals but fell short, unfortunately, to the Milwaukee Bucks. But getting into those moves and the impact of them, the first move I'm going to discuss that the Hawks made, which was a great move and seen by a lopsided trade, was the Hawks giving up their number 13 overall pick in the 2025 NBA draft to the New Orleans Pelicans for their 23rd pick, and in the first round, obviously. So the Hawks swapped first round picks with the New Orleans Pelicans, but they also got a 2026 first round pick from either the Pelicans or the Milwaukee Bucks, and the Hawks will get the best pick. So if the Milwaukee Bucks end up doing worse than the Pelicans, and the Hawks will get the Milwaukee Bucks first round pick. And same thing goes if it went the opposite way and the Pelicans end up finishing worse than the Bucks. The Hawks would end up getting the Pelicans first round pick. And this part of the trade was seen as like the turning point of the trade, because when you look at it from afar, you think, oh, they just swapped first round picks. The Hawks got the number 23 pick and they got another first round pick. But because of the trajectory that both of these teams have been on, the Pelicans and the Bucks, it's not really likely that either one of these teams is going to do extremely well in the 2025, 2026 NBA season. So this was seen as like the biggest part of the trade to many, because most likely the Hawks are going to get a very, very good first round pick, whether it's the Pelicans or the Bucks, but they get the most favorable pick. So that was honestly the first big move that the Hawks made um, in the 2025 NBA offseason, and a lot of people see it as one of the biggest moves they made. And obviously, the impact of that, not only did the Hawks still get a solid player at the number 23 pick, but they're in all probability going to be getting a top 10 first round pick in the 2026 NBA draft, which they can either use to select a player or they can use that pick also as leverage to make a bigger move, kind of similar to the move that they made this year. But they drafted Asa Newell with the 23rd pick in the 2025 NBA draft, and what I really like about this pick for the Hawks is that not only did Asa Newell play for the Georgia Bulldogs, meaning that he's going to be staying in the state of Georgia, but Asa Newell is also a very good player. I mean, I watched him play at least 3 to 4 times this season because obviously he's in the SEC with Georgia. Me being an Alabama fan, I've seen him play a few times, and this guy has pretty good size. He has good length. He's a decent perimeter player. He has versatility, and he's going to give the Hawks offense some versatility, not only offensively, but I think defensively as well because of his length and also the ability to move his feet against maybe a guy a couple inches smaller than him, being able to stay on him and not, just get picked on defensively. I think if he puts on a few pounds of muscle in the offseason, I think he'll be a very, very good asset for the Hawks coming up in this season, and I think he'll make an immediate impact. But yeah, big, big move. And like I said, also, you're going to most likely get a top 10 first round pick. And the second big move that the Hawks made, in my opinion, this offseason was acquiring Kristaps Porzingis from the Celtics in a 3-team trade with the Brooklyn Nets and the Boston Celtics. Kristaps Porzingis, he wasn't really that healthy in the playoffs, which kind of was a blow to Boston and their attempt to run it back to back. Unfortunately, Kristaps had an illness, which honestly was lingering from the regular season and caused him to not be able to play to the best of his ability when he did play, and also just to not be available for a lot of those games in the playoffs. So Kristaps, this is a very good pickup for the Hawks in my opinion because although Kristaps Porzingis hasn't been the most healthy guy, everybody knows his history with injuries has been pretty long, and he's kind of a guy who you're willing to take a risk on, in my opinion, just because Kristaps, he has been a solid player, and when he is on the floor, he gives a team a very, very good chance to compete in a lot of games. He can average, 18, 19, 20 points a game and knock down the three at a very, very good percentage, especially for a center. And he's also a good defender in the paint, very good paint protection. He gives very good paint protection with his wingspan and length around the rim. And, he's just a decent player. He can give you, like I said, 19 and 8, 20 and 9. Like, he's the type of guy who can give you very, very valuable minutes at the center position. And like I said, he's another guy that gives versatility to the offense and defense for the Hawks. And the Hawks really did not give up much to get Kristaps Porzingis, which I think might be the biggest part of this trade is the fact that they only gave up a second-round pick in, I think, George Niang for Kristaps Porzingis, essentially. So the fact that the Hawks were able to pull this off and only giving up what they gave, it's very impressive how they were able to pull that off. And obviously, they have Kristaps Porzingis, and giving up a second-round pick for a guy who has all-star potential. I mean, it's a no-brainer. And the third and final move that I'm going to be talking about today is Nickeil Alexander-Walker, the cousin of NBA champion and Finals MVP and regular season MVP Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Also, Nickeil Alexander-Walker was just on the Minnesota Timberwolves, who did play the Oklahoma City Thunder in the Western Conference Finals. And they lost in 5 games in an attempt to obviously make it to the NBA Finals. They fell a little bit short to a great team, but Nickeil Alexander-Walker is a very big pickup for the Hawks. They got him on a sign and trade. They're going to be paying Nickeil Alexander-Walker just over $15 million a year. If you just average it out throughout the 4 years, he's going to be making a total of $62 million over 4 years. And I don't think that includes the signing bonus, but that's just his salary. So Nickeil Alexander-Walker, great pickup. I mean, this guy, if you watched the playoffs this year, if you saw the Western Conference Finals, you saw the way this guy was playing. I mean, he was a very key, crucial factor for the Timberwolves. And when he played well, the Timberwolves played well as well. And they had a lot of success when he was having his best games of the postseason. This guy, very good. I really consider him primarily 3-and-D player, but this guy's a great defensive player. He can knock down the 3 at a solid rate, and not to mention he can also he's also a decent one ball handler, because he can get past the defender, get to the rim at a solid clip. So not only is he a good 3-and-D player, but he's also a decent just shot, I wouldn't say shot creator, but he's good at getting to the rim and finishing at the rim, or just kicking it out, making the right basketball play. So overall, I mean, he's just a solid player. I think Nickeil Alexander-Walker is a very good pickup for the Hawks as well, just because another guy who gives the Hawks versatility and a defensive increase. And they already have Dyson Daniels, who was I think, first team all defense this past year. So it's looking up for the Hawks, looking very hopeful for them going into the 2025-2026 NBA season. But the question is now, number one, how healthy will the Hawks be? We know they dealt with a lot of injuries last year, whether it was Trey or now you bring in a guy like Kristaps Porzingis, who has the history in his career to be very injury prone. And then you also have new guys like rookies like Asa Newell coming in. You don't really know how he's going to end up turning out, and you just have to wait and see. But I think this Hawks team has a lot of very good things to look forward to. And if you're a Hawks fan or you just support the Atlanta Hawks, I think you have a lot to look forward to for this upcoming season. And I'm looking forward to seeing how this team shapes out. The East is going to be a little bit weaker this year because of all the injuries, and the Bucks are one of those teams who are looking like they're going to have a very rough year. And then also the Celtics and the Pacers are going to have to adjust without their best player, and losing respectively Jason Tatum and Tyrese Halliburton. So the Atlanta Hawks are looking like they're going to be able to make a run this year, and possibly contend for at least an Eastern Conference Finals championship. I don't know about NBA Finals yet. I guess we just have to see. But I do think they do have a good shot at winning the East with the new additions that they brought in. So that's going to conclude today's episode. If you made it to the end, please let me know. And big shout out to you. If you made it to the end, I actually want you to comment under this. And so you can comment on YouTube and Spotify. Obviously, both places where my full episodes drop. If you're listening to this through Apple Podcasts, I don't know if you're able to comment, but if you are, go ahead and comment. Let's see, what word? Comment South America. Go ahead and comment South America if you made it to the end of this episode. Thank you for tuning in to the J.A.T side today on this beautiful Wednesday evening. But that's all I have for you guys today. So until next time, I'm your host, Jalen Austin Taylor, and I'm out.